So we're going to go on here. Hi, Kelly. Guys, you got to listen to this. Remember how we were talking? I don't know how many of you guys were on the other channel, because we were on the other channel when we started. Maybe we weren't. God, we've been making so much. This case is so confusing. I don't remember what day I do what. But we were having a conversation about crystal clear. So I equate now that let me be crystal clear means that right after that, hey, Brittany, it's nice to see you. Right after that, he's going to tell a mistruth. I'll be kind and say mistruth. And so I actually put it out there to everybody to start listening when you're listening to interviews. When he says, let me be crystal clear, jot down what he wants to be crystal clear about. And lo and behold, a beautiful person, did she give me permission to use her name? I don't know. She didn't. I don't see a permission to give her name, but I'm going to say WM, and we'll say the name if I get permission. But sent me this, and this person actually was rewatching the April 27th Web Sleuths interview. Now, if you guys don't know about this Web Sleuths interview, let me take it back. For those that are just coming here, I'm covering the case of Sebastian Rogers. Sorry, I got to fix my little thumbnail to try to get them in either way. But this is Sebastian Rogers. He's a 15-year-old autistic boy that disappeared from his home in Hendersonville, Tennessee, and has not been seen since February 26th, and there's been no credible sightings of him to date. And as time starts going on, naturally we start looking at things like the parents or who else can be involved. And you know, we're honing in on, you know, certain key factors or things that don't that don't sit right with us, and we want to find out what other certain things mean. And so we're kind of going through this process, and you know, when we have parents talking, we want them to keep talking, you know. So if he wants, you know, me as a legal professional, I'm going to tell anybody and everybody, whether I think you're guilty or innocent, is you have a right to remain silent, and I would really utilize that. But, you know, these people, they feel like they need to come out and convince people that they didn't do things or whatever, get the public opinion up or whatnot. I don't think the public was too kind on them because I don't think Chris is a very nice guy normally, and I think with the stresses of this, it's making him abnormal. Okay, it's, you know, we were analyzing a lot with a very little. Right? So this is from the Web Sleuths interview. If you guys did not watch that interview, Chris Proudfoot was one hot papa. It sounded like he was a little intoxicated, and it sounded like somebody in the chat had triggered him, or somebody on the panel had triggered him. And so he was insistent on calling in or coming up on the show on Web Sleuths, where they were having, at the time, then PI Chloe up there to talk about the case. And long story short, this is the interview that she's referring to, and she's going through here for the crystal clears. So she said, I just watched the April 27th Web Sleuth interview. I counted 5 times CP was crystal clear about things. CP exploded around the 2-hour, 33-minute, and 3-second mark when Seth brought up the rumor about CP's parents having Sebastian. CP tried to redirect the conversation to excuse his parents. CP said they were nowhere near Katie on Sunday, but they were seen on Monday morning at the store. CP said he was very pissed. CP switched the conversation to the last video of Sebastian leaving the Texas Roadhouse. CP was yelling, and he said LE had talked to his parents, his whole family. Interesting. So now, if we were to apply our belief that every time Chris says crystal clear, what's coming out of his mouth next is going to be a lie, that kind of makes me feel weird about the parents, about Kathy and Terry Bowersox. Because many of us believe they were involved, and many of us are kind of really believing that she was at that store that morning. You know, whether we have the, this is all theory-based, obviously, but, it seems plausible. So let's keep going. I also took away from this video, CP had terabytes of videos of things Seth has said. Interesting. CP said the public thinking outside the box is causing speculations and tips called in. Takes resources away from finding Sebastian. CP says he took a polygraph with TBI and another agency and has passed with flying colors. And I get tickled about the pass with flying colors, and there's a reason, because there's one part that I was doing research on how to pass a polygraph, and that was one of the things it said, if you want to pass with flying colors. And that was after I heard him say that about the flying colors, and I'm like, you'll never believe what it says. It says flying colors. He says they phoned Seth and told him he passed. CP doesn't think using the belt on Sebastian over his clothes is abuse because it didn't cause marks or bruises. CP was asked if any violence in the house concerning Sebastian. No. CP says the very first interview he did was Smiley's story. CP says the very first interview he did was Smiley's story. That's not true. I mean, if he said, I'm not saying he didn't say that. I'm just saying, well, that's not true, because we just did Dutch's. He was extremely defensive about the thud. Host asked him about it. CP said Katie reported she heard a thud. That's it. Not going to give details publicly. Those are, why? I don't understand. They don't want to give details publicly. Me and you didn't miss. We're going over an email about, remember, I'm looking for all the interviews because I kind of am trying to do a little analysis. I'm kind of seeing, I don't know how to explain it. I noticed a clear correlation. Let me get scientific here. I saw a strong correlation between when Chris says crystal clear and the next lie that falls out of his mouth. So I decided to task some of our people, actually I threw it out there to anybody that wanted to do something, is to grab an interview and see how many times Chris says crystal clear, and then what statements he makes after he says, let me make this crystal clear. Because I'm trying to see if I can hone in on specific statements that might lead us into a direction. Because if I think that when he says crystal clear, the next thing is going to be a major lie, then that might point me into where the truth might lie. No pun intended. I confuse myself sometimes, so if you're confused, it's okay. If you're confused, it's okay. So we're going through this email, which one of them was, when he said, let me be crystal clear, it was surrounding the information about Seth thinking that Sebastian might be at the Bowersox home. And that's his mom, Chris's mom, Kathy, and his stepfather, Terry Bowersox. And he got upset about that. So now she says the terabytes... Chris has terabytes of videos of what Seth says. Oh, the polygraph. CP doesn't think that the belt on Sebastian over his clothes is abuse as long as it doesn't cause marks or bruises. He was extremely defensive about the thud. That's where we left off. And so he became extremely defensive about the thud. Now, at the 2 hour and 15-minute mark on the video, CP says that Sebastian has gone outside before without shoes, but hasn't run off. And that's kind of funny because there's been so many times that he's made no mention of that. I didn't catch that when we watched that interview. Now, at the 2 hour, 17-minute mark and 29 second, CP says it was so dark on their street that some detectives were not visible on camera. That was interesting. Oh, well, you know what? There were cameras installed after the fact, so that might not be too, but I don't know, because we've heard some Chris has made some comments about cameras early on that kind of give you pause, and I always keep going back to that Nancy Grace interview where they're talking about, do they have any cameras around their house? And Katie and Chris just have this really long, unusual pause before they say no. And sometimes I think people can overanalyze an interview to death and see things that aren't there because of overanalyzation. But it just seemed odd. It just seemed odd. And at the 2 hour, 22-minute mark and 10 second, asked if it was common for CP and KP to have a 3-hour phone call. CP says, sure. I would infer they don't have 3-hour phone calls. And that was one of the key pieces of information that I actually have been trying to find. And this is the closest that I've gotten so far to a response